Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Blue Marble Geographics webinar for this week. I am Mackenzie Mills, and I am joined today by my lovely colleague, Global Mapper expert and documentation specialist, our technical content writer, Amanda Lind. How are you doing today, Amanda?
Hello, Mackenzie. Hello, everyone. I'm doing great. Thank you.
All right, it's great to have you here, and I'm really excited to talk about our new Global Mapper release during this webinar hour. We're going to talk about what's new with Global Mapper, specifically pertaining to Global Mapper Standard version 26.1. So this will be that base Global Mapper version, new features, or the bigger, exciting new features in the new release, version 26.1, which is available for download now from our website. And keep your eyes peeled on our website if these dates don't work for you, but you're still interested in training. We do, have training, more training classes that we are scheduling for the rest of the year coming soon. So keep an eye out for those as well. All right, so let's get into some of the content for our webinar today. As I mentioned at the beginning, we are talking about version 26.1, the improvements and new features in that version. And this is just a quick list of what we'll be going through with some live demos. So we have a new dockable digitizer toolset, which rearranges some of the toolbars in the Global Mapper interface to sort of streamline that interface and bring out some of those digitizer tools, cluster them together a little more in a more organized way. We have a new toolbar, a scripting toolbar to access quickly some key scripting tools and a new favorite scripts functionality. We've improved the connect to online data source dialog. So this is an old favorite in Global Mapper, the ability to stream online data directly into a workspace. We've just revised that dialog to make it a little more visually appealing and better organized, adding some new options there as well. We've also reorganized and improved the text file import dialog, cleaning up that user interface and adding a new functionality to save some settings for text file imports. So you can re-import files or similarly formatted files very easily. We've also extended our file format support. Anyone who uses Global Mapper may already know that we do have an extensive file format support. I believe it's around 300 file formats that are supported, and we've added a couple more in version 26.1. The cloud optimized point cloud format is a structure within the LAZ LiDAR format. And then we also have Esri SLPK read functionality that we've added to 26.1. In the Digitizer tools, we've added a method to create parallel lines from a selected line feature that we'll take a look at. And then a small improvement to the map layout editor where we've just reorganized some of the page lists and elements lists, combining those two things so that you can better manage what's on a multi-page map layout. And lastly, in our 3D viewer for viewing all sorts of 3D data, we've fully completed the feature info tool in that view and have a way to define, view, or set the camera position when you're looking at data in 3D. So with all of that, that's what we'll be going over today. We're going to be jumping into some live Global Mapper demonstrations. And since I feel like I've been talking a lot, I might hand the screen off to you, Amanda, to talk about the Digitizer toolset and start in looking at Global Mapper.
Absolutely. So hopefully you should be able to see my Digitizer slide here. So the Digitizer toolset, while it looks like a new feature and is very visually different, it functions the same way as the old tools do. It's a very straightforward change where all of these tools that used to be spread across multiple toolbars are now located in one tool set. So it makes it a little bit easier to use and it consolidates everything. So let's go ahead and take a look at what this looks like within Global Mapper. I have some vector data loaded here that we can look at. The Digitizer toolset is this little icon here with a toolbox and a little Digitizer icon. And it opens in one of Global Mapper's traditional dialogues. You can move it around wherever you want to, kick it to a different monitor. You can also dock it, whichever helps make your workflow easier to use. Now, all of these tools, if you're familiar with how they used to appear in the toolbars, they function the same way in that you can grab any of these selection tools up here. These selection tools are still available in the selection toolbar up here at the top because many of them are still useful for other tools outside of digitizing and vector editing. You can grab one of these tools and select a vector feature. And as you select a vector feature type, all of these tools that are applicable to that selected type will become enabled. So they're lighter in color, and the tools that can't be used become this darker gray. So it's, again, what you're used to using. It's just in a simplified and more consolidated manner. It also provides the ability to, it's a quick shortcut to the Modify Feature Info dialog if you hit Edit Selection. It's, yeah, again, all the tools you're used to using, but consolidated and simplified.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this update personally because those digitizer tools are great when you need them. It's great to be able to have them available, but being able to close that digitizer tool set and sort of get back that screen real estate for viewing my map or exploring data, doing other analysis is really great when you're working with limited screen space, especially.
Oh, absolutely. It took out 3 whole toolbars. Like, this is pretty good. Well, I think that's all I have for the digitizer tool. I might go ahead and throw it back to you, Mackenzie.
Yep, I will take the screen back here and we'll jump into talking about another toolbar change here. Instead of getting rid of some toolbars and sort of reorganizing tools into a defined tool set, we're adding a toolbar in this case. It's just a short one, and it is the scripting toolbar. So the scripting in Global Mapper, we support a proprietary text-based Global Mapper script, and then we also have some integration with Python. And the scripting toolbar allows you to access tools for script editing, the script editor, which allows you to write scripts and run scripts in the context of Global Mapper, as well as the script builder, which allows you to record what you're doing in the user interface and sort of translate that to script. So it's a great tool for starting to build some scripts. And then the new functionality that we've added, and that's also accessible from the scripting toolbar, is the favorite scripts. So this allows you to quick run some scripts that you've saved to your specific favorite scripts in Global Mapper. And to better describe this, I'm going to flip over to Global Mapper here, where I've just got some data loaded vector with a little raster data, and we're going to explore this scripting toolbar. Now I have it up here. I can pull it out. All of our toolbars, you can reorganize, move around, resize, and dock vertically or up at the top in their default position. So I've just pulled the scripting toolbar out so we can take a closer look at it. Our first button here is the script builder. Now currently that is grayed out for me because I do not have Global Mapper Pro registered. The script builder is a Global Mapper Pro tool for helping to create some scripts. So if you're interested in that, I would definitely recommend checking out Global Mapper Pro. The script editor allows you to edit scripts and run scripts in Global Mapper Standard. What I have registered now, this is only going to allow me to view scripts and run them. I won't be able to do any of that active text editing in the script editor, but that again is available with Global Mapper Pro and comes with a whole host of functionality. And then we have this drop down, which is our favorite scripts drop down. So you can see I've got a Python script in here as well as Global Mapper scripts. And then at the bottom, we have the option for the favorite script manager. So bringing this up, this is how I would add scripts to my list of favorite scripts, add from a file. And these would move that script file, copy that script file to your user data folder in the Global Mapper install. From this favorite script manager, I can choose to run a script. I can toggle this checkbox to run the favorite scripts in the context of the main view. So that means using what is loaded currently in my workspace. By default, this is enabled because this tool really is designed to perform a series of actions, whether those are exports or analysis steps on a data set that you've loaded. And it just prevents you from having to go through, various different dialogues in the user interface and, making that process into a script standardizes it so you know that you're using the same settings each time that script is run. Unchecking this box will mean that any script accessed and run from this dropdown in the toolbar will not run in the context of the main view. I like to leave that one checked. That's my preferred use of this favorite scripts functionality. Taking any of these scripts, I can right click on them. I can remove it from my favorites. If this is getting cluttered up and there's scripts that I don't need anymore, I can choose to run the script here, or I can open that in the script editor. Just to view this script in Global Mapper Standard, again with Global Mapper Pro, you'd be able to edit the script here and save it, modify it in any way. And you can see that this is a Global Mapper script, that text-based scripting. If you're not familiar with Global Mapper script, it is pretty easy to learn. We have it very, very well documented. And the script builder can definitely help you create some scripts to automate a little bit of your maybe repetitive work that you do in Global Mapper. So we'll go ahead and close the script editor. And we'll go ahead and run a favorite script. I've got a quick script here that exports some imagery tiles. I'll click Run Script. This is prompting me for one parameter in this script, the name of the county that I have displayed in my current data. And I'm going through and exporting tiles of imagery based on these loaded vector features. So results from that script are some exported tiles of imagery that I have in a folder here. And I can load a few of those, and we can see that the result of that script is just some custom tiles of imagery based on my town polygons here. Of course, this can be done, through the Global Mapper user interface with an export. This is a fairly simple workflow, but if I'm repeating this workflow for, say, multiple data sets, and I'm able to generalize it to a script and then run it just as I have that data set open to either update some tiles or create new tiles, it really standardizes that export so that I know I'm using the correct files, I'm exporting the correct layers, and I'm doing things like making the background pixels transparent and using a standard resolution that is defined in the script for each time that I run this process. It takes away a little bit of that opportunity for user error. So I'm a really big fan of this tool. I'm a person who does really like to automate a little process when I can with Global Mapper script or a Python script. And run that in Global Mapper. So this scripting toolbar just provides quick access to be able to do that. And that's really the new scripting toolbar. That is the toolbar that we've added in this release of Global Mapper version 26.1. And I think it provides definitely some value to the program, access to some tools that previously were all available in menus, the script editor and script builder, but just brings them to the forefront in a toolbar with some icons.
It does. It absolutely makes scripting a lot more accessible and a good visual reminder, like, hey, you could be scripting this workflow you're working on.
Yes, absolutely. And with that, I think we've got another visual change coming up with the online data source tool. If you want to grab the screen back, Amanda, and talk a little bit about the facelift or revision that tool got.
Alrighty. So the online data source tool in Global Mapper is another staple to our software. It provides you the ability to download or stream data from sources online directly into your Global Mapper workspace. It makes it really easy and straightforward to get data, especially for your specific study area. These changes that we've added in 26.1 are changes just to the interface to help organize and make our long list of built-in and custom sources that you may add a little bit easier to navigate. We've changed things so these sources are broken up into tabs and some of the settings are up in the file. So let's open Global Mapper and take a quick tour of what this interface looks like. The online data tool is, of course, this little globe icon up here in typically the top left corner. The first tab here is the Favorites tab, and you can add your favorite sources to this, be it custom or from the built-in sources, and I'll come back to this. The popular sources are sources that we have noticed that are popular within our users, and you can see that there are online source preview images to kind of give you a little bit of a visualization of what type of data each of these sources provide. The Premium tab, these sources are supported from third-party vendors. If you want to learn more information about each of these individual sources, you can right-click on it and choose the option to display source web page in terms of service, and this will open the third-party website in your default browser. And of course, you can do this with any of the built-in sources as well to learn more about them. And then here's a tab that contains all of your custom sources. And then, of course, all of the sources that you know and love are still contained in this All Sources tab. You can search it with a source bar, and they're organized by data type, just as they've always been. Now, to add one of these sources to your Favorites tab, it's just as easy as right-clicking on a source and checking the box to favorite it. And as soon as you favorite it, it appears here in this window. It's another way to kind of help you organize and bring to the forefront all of your favorite and your personal most popular sources. Now, these are gray by default, but you can also add your own online source preview, your own little image here to kind of help distinguish these icons. It's PNG files are what we support for this at the moment, and they must be geo-referenced. So it's just as easy as streaming one of these data sources and exporting it as a PNG file to create the image that you can use here. To select an image, you right-click on it, click Select Online Source Preview. I already have one exported here. I'll click Open, and now it's just as easy as seeing it here. So this is all of the changes that are added here. Oh, there's one more change I should add. The buttons that used to be along the bottom are now found here in the File menu, specifically the ability to add a new custom source. And this dialog is just the same as it has been. It's just located from the File menu up the top. So once you have a source that you would like to import into Global Mapper and you've selected it, click Next down on the bottom, and this next page helps you tell Global Mapper exactly what data extent you would like to stream from the server. If you had data loaded in the background, you could choose current screen bounds just to focus on your specific workspace or within a selected polygon. I don't have anything loaded at the moment, so it's defaulted to entire data source bounds if you would like to explore the full extent of the data. But the one feature on this menu that's new is the ability to export online data directly to files. And this is specifically useful because a lot of the tools within Global Mapper, the analysis tools, required the data to be downloaded from the server onto your machine and imported into Global Mapper before you can use them. It's just how the streaming service works. And so enabling this option helps to skip that step. So if I check this option, I can also check the option to load the exported data into the current workspace to make sure after it's exported, it is then loaded back in. Once I've checked that, I can click Connect, and I am prompted with the ability to choose which one of the file types I would like to connect to. Now, one of the most commonly recommended export options that we usually give for exporting online data is the Global Mapper package file. And that's because it includes this option to choose a specific online layer export option. And this is especially useful for tiled data. So that's data where you zoom in a little bit and another layer of data of a higher resolution is loaded. So as you zoom in, it loads more and more tiles and more layers of information. And exporting all of those layers can take, as you can imagine, lots of time, and it can create some pretty large files. But using this option to use either the best available zoom level, so the highest resolution, or letting Global Mapper automatically choose a good zoom level can help you make larger files that export more quickly. And whenever you choose it, you click OK. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to pull all of the FAA file sources onto my computer at this moment. But that's a bit how that workflow goes. It's a good change for a very, very commonly used tool and a good backbone of Global Mapper.
Yeah, absolutely. This, connecting to online data has been in Global Mapper for a very long time. So this is definitely some needed UI changes. And I personally love the option to export directly from an online source because I am often pulling online data down to do some analysis, or I want to make sure I have that data available to me. If I am working offline, or if my internet connection goes out for some reason, I still want to have access to that data. So that export option is something I'm using almost every time I'm looking at online data these days.
Absolutely, yeah. Speaking of changes for interfaces, I might pass it back to you, Mackenzie, to look at the text file importer.
Absolutely. So talking about getting data in and some UI changes for dialogues that have been in Global Mapper for a very long time, we have made some changes to the text file import options. Now, this is a large dialog because text files can be so varied in format. A lot of our specific GIS format files adhere to a standard specification. Text files, they're very free form, which is great because you can hold all sorts of data. It's very useful for interoperability between programs, and Global Mapper supports that flexibility with this dialog, allowing you to set up exactly how data from a text file is imported into the program. So again, this is a dialog that's been in Global Mapper for quite some time. It's real basic importing data from a text file, but as I said, there's a lot of options that come along with that. We've reorganized a couple of those options, changed some lists of radio buttons to drop downs just for an efficient use of space. And we've also added to this tool the option to save a set of text file options for import. And I'll show that and talk a little bit about that as I jump over to Global Mapper here. So I've got just a little bit of reference data. This is just data for the state of Maine, the towns of Maine. And I am going to, from the File menu, choose to open a generic text file. Now, this is going to prompt me to find my text file, a little CSV that I have here. And I'll click Open to get to that text file import dialog. So as you can see, it doesn't look drastically different from previous versions of Global Mapper. We're not trying to shock you with change. We're just trying to improve these workflows with some of these UI changes. But up at the top, we have this new dropdown. And this is the saved text file option. So you can see I have one text point cloud option already saved here. And selecting that changes all of the other options in this dialog to conform to this saved option. I can also choose to create something new. You don't have to do this when you're importing a text file as well. I can go through and set my options for import and not even pay any attention to this top level drop down field if I wanted to. But if I do want to save these text file options, say this is a text file that I'm importing quite frequently, or I have a lot of text files that I use that are formatted similarly, or maybe this is a text file produced by another program and it's pretty standard for what I'm doing and the data that I'm looking at. This option just allows you to save those options for import, so you're not going through this dialog every time you're importing a text file. So to save a set of options, you'll just add a name to this field up at the top. It's a drop-down and entry box combo there. And then you'll set up all of the options that you want. So in this case, I'm importing point features. We've changed the coordinate delimiter option from some drop-downs to or from some radio buttons to a drop down. And we've also added the option for a custom delimiter where you can type in if you've got something very custom in your text file, delimiting the fields. I believe this is semicolon separated here. And then we've got all the familiar checkboxes. There's column headers in this first row of my file. Changing any of these settings is going to refresh that file preview to update so I can see how Global Mapper is looking to read that text file. Over in the coordinate positions, we have this option to not use custom coordinate positions, and this is the traditional, if you want to skip certain fields at the start of the line, say I want to skip 3 fields here to import from latitude and longitude, and I don't have an elevation, so I will uncheck that box, and we're no longer looking for that elevation coordinate. But another update here is the improved custom coordinate position options. So here in these drop downs, I'm now seeing my field names. So if I do have column headers, you're going to see those in these drop downs, and I can go ahead and choose the correct columns. I can also right click on any of these columns and select it. When doing that, it updates the drop down here. Once I have all these options set up, I've got my saved option named. If I want to create that, I'll click OK. Global Mapper is going to import this. It's a text file without an associated projection file, so I do have to confirm the projection or change that. And you can see that we've imported this text file. It's just all of the lighthouses along the coast of Maine here, so some point features. Now, I've saved those options. If I want to view them or share them with someone, I can do so through configuration. If I go to configuration vector formats here, Down at the bottom, we have this new little section for our saved text file options. You can see I've got my lighthouses and I've got my text point cloud options here. Of course, I can import some shared options that someone else has set up for me to make it easy for me to import a specifically formatted text file. I can export a set of shared options to, maybe share with Amanda to make her data importing a little bit easier. And then I can always delete these options as well. With something selected in this dropdown, clicking Edit brings up that text file import options dialog, but with no text file trying to be imported. This just allows me to view the options that I have set here and change them if I need to. So just to show that again with a set of options that I have already saved, I'm just going to drag and drop my text file into Global Mapper, and that will also pop up our generic text file import options dialog, and I can choose my set of pre-configured saved options. I've got my elevation column first in this file, and then my XY coordinates. I've got all of that set up, and I just click OK. Again, I will have to just confirm the projection for this file, and once I do that, you can see I've imported just a small tile of point cloud data that I had stored in a text file for Portland, Maine here. So another just usability update, trying to make that text file import a little bit more usable, a little bit more user-friendly, and since it is a big dialog with some complex options, a little bit easy to maybe repeat a process or import similar text files repeatedly.
Absolutely, especially if you're, for example, bringing in ground control points from different GPS units and each unit exports differently. This streamlines that workflow over time so much.
Absolutely. And also reduces that opportunity for error, having to set those options every time that you're importing a point file. I know I make mistakes with those options all the time and have to re-import some data. So speaking of importing data, I don't have a live demo for this one, but we do have some expanded file format support in Global Mapper 26.1 here. As I mentioned, we support read and write for the cloud optimized point cloud format support, a specification of the LAZ 1.4 format, and then read format for Esri SLPK, or a scene layer package format. So we're always working to keep expanding the files that are supported in Global Mapper, and we want to hear if there are files that you're using currently that Global Mapper is not able to read that you would like it to be able to read. We're always looking to expand this list, and so this work has just been part of that. I believe that Amanda is going to move into some more digitizing here with some parallel line creation, if we are ready for that demo.
Absolutely. So this was a user-requested tool. It's, again, pretty simple, straightforward, that creates parallel lines from an existing line feature. So you select the line feature, click on the tool, and then these lines that are created are unique because when the original line feature, for example, creates a sharp corner and gets close to touching itself, these parallel line features that are created don't overlap either themselves or the original line feature. So let's jump into Global Mapper and give that a whirl. I have loaded here just a sample road layer going through some terrain. It's again really simple to use. I grab the Digitizer tool, select the line feature. I'll go ahead and select multiple here. And then from the right-click Digitizer menu, I'm going to choose Advanced Feature Creation Options because we are creating a feature, and I'll choose Create Parallel Lines Spaced from Selected Line Features. And that brings up this dialog here. So we have this line feature, this narrow road. I'm going to pretend that we're widening this road a little bit, just for hypothetical. So I'm going to create 2 additional parallel lines, 2 on each side. And then I'm going to go ahead, just so we can see them a little better. It's not necessarily useful. I'm going to go ahead and make them 10 meters across. Now you have the option to choose if you want to create the parallel lines on both sides or either the left or the right. I'm going to choose both. In Global Mapper, you'll see the option for left and then right lines and a couple of different tools. We determine that based on the first vertex. So if you were drawing the line feature, it'd be where you dropped that first vertex down. If you didn't draw the line feature, you can select it and look at the vertices list and see where one was, or you can create the lines and see if it's the one you wanted and delete it and go back if it wasn't. But the
Another tip just for, sorry to interject, Amanda, just for figuring out the direction of your line. When you've got a line selected and the vertices displayed like this, the start vertex will be green and the end will be red. So that's another way, if you can see both ends of your line, to sort of indicate which direction it's going.
Oh, that's handy. That's a lot easier than looking at the vertex list. Thank you. All right, once you have your directional line chosen, I think what makes this tool most useful is this option to create non-overlapping lines feature. You can disable it, but keeping it enabled I think is the most useful. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and it's going to prompt me for a layer name here. I'm going to call this non-overlapping. I don't need any more information at the moment, and the lines are going to go ahead and generate. And I'll zoom in a little bit so we can see them more clearly. This thicker line is the original line feature, and as we navigate through this, we can see, of course, as the line moves, sort of the paralines next to it. And it kind of does this by changing the lengths of the segments as they're created to make sure that they maintain that same distance from the original parent line feature. And if you're looking to create these type of vector features, this tool is particularly useful for that. It's again, it's pretty straightforward, pretty simple, but it's very useful if that's what you're looking for. It is similar to the buffer tool, but this was again a user requested tool because in areas where the original parent layer, the original vector feature, gets pretty close to itself, it doesn't create any pockets because it's specifically made for this specific workflow. And we can also look at these lines in the path profile tool. If I draw a line over them, right click, we can see again the original parent line and the two lines on either side. We can click along, look at it different places, and we can see that the distance between the parent line and the new perpendicular line or parallel lines is maintained. I think
Yep. So
that
as Amanda said, this was a user request. You know, copy and pasting and trying to shift your line to create a parallel, was the way that folks were doing this in Global Mapper before this tool, and this tool greatly improves that workflow, making this much more automatic, and the ability to create many parallel lines based on a single selected feature.
a lot less editing for those, yeah. Right, well, I might pass this back to you, Mackenzie, to look at the map layout editor.
Yes, I will grab the screen in just a second here. And we'll take a look at an improvement to the map layout editor. So the map layout editor, for those that may not know, is the tool in Global Mapper used to create maps for print, or export to image or PDF. So of course you can export a PDF directly from the main map view. You can export images from there as well. You can grab screen captures. But the map layout editor allows you to define a page size, your map frame, layout, and then add additional elements like text features. I've got this text box with a title up at the top. I've added a legend. I can format that and change the size and the background and the font and all of those things, position it very specifically on my map page. Also in the map layout editor, we have the ability to create map books, so like an atlas. And that is what I've done here to show the change in this tool. So the change for 26.1 in the map layout editor is the fact that this page list over on the left-hand side of our map layout editor window that I have open now includes all of the pages of the map that I have created. So I've created a map book for boat launch locations in this county of Maine, where each page zooms in on a specific boat launch location. But under each of those pages in a collapsible section are the elements that are available on that page. So that text title, I can select it in this list and see it selected in my view. I can right click on any of these elements here, and choose to set any of the page level properties. I can also access the element properties. So I can edit this text element, the position if I need it very specifically positioned, and then the frame of it as well. I can also reorder things with a right click, moving that map element up or down, just like the control center in Global Mapper. That order is going to determine how things are layered, how these elements are layered on the page. So, if I move my map layout up, I can see that it is behind all of my other elements currently, but I can move that map view element with a drag, and now it's going to be in front of some of my other page elements, which probably not ideal for my map creation, but this list view of all of the pages and then elements within these pages allows you to easily see what elements that what you have on each page, and manage them a little more effectively in this map layout, especially when you get to these multi-page, more complex layout scenarios like this one. So again, a smaller change to the map layout editor, to a tool in Global Mapper that's been there for quite some time, but trying to make it a little bit easier to use, a little bit easier to manage some more complex situations here. And I think that leads us to our last feature that Amanda is going to talk about, which are some improvements in the 3D viewer of Global Mapper, this awesome tool we have for viewing 3D data.
Absolutely. So this new tool allows you to set the camera parameters in the 3D viewer, so you can manually change the current camera position to a specific location. It allows you, again, to customize the angle and field of view, and let's look at it in Global Mapper. So let me grab, this is the same data set we were looking at with parallel lines, but I changed the shader to the Atlas shader to make it a little bit more colorful and fun. The 3D viewer in Global Mapper views, of course, in 3D any data you have that has elevation data associated with it. So I have some DEM layer loaded here, and of course a roads layer that has some elevation associated with it. And there are many different tools in Global Mapper for viewing the 3D data from different perspectives to kind of help you get a fully rounded understanding of what your data looks like, especially if you're using terrain paint and other tools in Global Mapper to visualize future changes. The 3D viewer is great for helping you get, again, a fully rounded view of that. And a new tool we've added to expand that existing data set is the Set Camera Parameters tool. That's this little camera icon with the spinny lines around it. And it basically just allows you to input a camera position from, say, a specific X, Y, and Z location, or latitude and longitude if you have that information. So if you were building a building and you wanted to know what the CEO would be looking at from a specific elevation above ground, like from his window, you could use this set camera parameters to look at that location. You could also choose to select from map. So if you just know where you're going to look at, say I want to look here from the bottom, click OK, and it will adjust so you're looking from that location. You can also look from an existing point feature. So I have a point feature here in Global Mapper already loaded in the workspace. I'm going to go ahead and select it. See, it's just a tiny blue dot here over on the adjacent mountain. And I will choose the option to use selected point, and it will automatically update these X, Y, and Z measurements from that selected point. And you can also change the camera heading. So I think this one, 300, will give us, so it looks a little bit more towards the parent mountain. I click OK, and we are staring a little bit at it. I think I'm a little too high. I should bring the Z value down. But again, it's another way to help you fully explore your information. And another update while I'm here in the 3D viewer that we added in 26.1 is an expansion to the existing feature info tool. We've had the feature info tool in the 2D workspace for a long time, and we recently, one of the last 2 or 3 releases, added it to the 3D viewer. And in 26.1, we expanded it so you can not only click on a line feature to see the information about it. So if I want to click on this line feature, I want to make sure I just get that. So I'm going to press the L key on my keyboard to click to make sure I get the line and nothing around it. And it provides all of the attribute information that's associated with the feature that I clicked on it. So for the line, it shows the elevation information that's associated with it. And, oh, no, just kidding. This didn't get the line feature. This got the layer that's listed. So this is a data set that I streamed from the NASA DEM web source. But again, it's the same concept. This is what we've actually expanded the feature info tool to include, is the ability to read raster layers, such as this DEM layer elevation datasets or imagery using the feature info tool in the 3D viewer. It lets you see the exact pixel values of what you're clicking on to get more information. So say again, if you're using the terrain paint tool and you wanted to know what the elevation of a specific cell was, this is the tool that would let you do that. All right, I think this was actually the last tool that we had to showcase.
Yes, I believe it was. So I'll grab the screen back, and we've got just a few things to wrap up. I think that we've got a little bit of time in this session here to answer a few questions. I've seen a few coming in through that questions panel. Keep sending your questions if you have them. So one of the questions that we got related to the map layout editor is some options for page size, and um, you know, Global Mapper definitely supports different options for page size in the layout editor. Since I have the screen, I'll just quickly pull up, and start a new map here, and we've got some different page sizes. You can also define a custom page size, and then creating some sort of standard templates maybe with some of those elements already added to a page that you're able to use. Now you can create those custom in Global Mapper to reuse for yourself, but currently we don't offer any, or a wide variety of pre-configured sort of layout templates, since a lot of map creation is so specific to its application. But that is a good idea, that maybe we should provide some basic templates that users can start with as a jumping off point, and then continue into customizing there. Another question that someone asked, is there a feature to reduce the density of point files? Now I'm thinking that they're talking about point clouds. Do you maybe want to talk about that, touch on that just for a second, Amanda?
Absolutely. So we have a couple of different methods for reducing LiDAR point files. Of course, these are available in Global Mapper Pro. So there are two tools. There is the LiDAR thin tool, which allows you to thin the tool based so you retain maybe the lowest points in the area, the highest points, or a popular favorite is to retain it just the points. What do you call it? It's it retains the most points in areas with higher change, so you help retain the integrity of the data set while still decimating the area around it. But we also added recently in the last release or two the ability to classify by key points. And so those key points are they're the most important points in the data set as calculated. And so you will keep just those points and get rid of the rest of it, decimate the rest of the point cloud, and that will also help thin it down. And thinning a point cloud helps make it process a lot more easily, and especially since point clouds can be millions of points and not all of them are necessarily required to get the high resolution information that you're looking to generate. So, lowering the resolution of the point cloud is a good way to help with that processing through one of those tools. It looks like there's another question here about parallel lines. When creating the new offset lines, does it automatically give the DEM elevations? No, it does not, but in Global Mapper, it's really easy just to select those new line features, to right-click Analysis Measurement, and then choose to automatically populate the line features with the elevation data from an elevation layer that's loaded underneath it. So it'll just choose the closest elevation from a raster that's loaded underneath it. And if you don't have a raster, it's another reason to use the online data tool, just to stream something into Global Mapper real quick and pull that elevation data into your vector features.
And we did get a question about downloading some LiDAR for some specific, non-US areas, and we are not data providers, just as a little caveat there. We allow access, or we provide access to a variety of known freely available online sources. So the availability of data to be downloaded through that online data source dialog is really subject to what data is out there. If you know of freely available sources for other countries outside of the US, we are US based, so we do have a little bit of a bias in the data that we're exposed to just in our domestic work. We're happy to add sources to that online source dialog, and you can always add them as custom sources as well to stream in some of that data. Another question that we got, are you able to export the viewpoint image from the 3D viewer. So yes, you can export an image from the 3D viewer. There is a little camera icon on the 3D viewer toolbar to capture an image where you can set the resolution and capture a snapshot of your data in 3D view, especially after maybe setting a very specific camera position. Additionally, in that camera position dialog that Amanda went over, there is a copy button. You should be able to copy out the position of the camera and those parameters if you need to use those associated with your captured image, or just to have on hand if you need to recreate that exact view at a later time.
I learned this the other day. There's actually a shortcut in the 3D viewer. If you have the 3D viewer open and selected, you can just hit Control C on your keyboard and it takes a quick little screenshot that you can paste into Word or anywhere.
Well, that's a
So
great little shortcut. I didn't know about that one. Global Mapper has many, many keyboard shortcuts, and I'm not nearly as adept as I wish I was at using them.
there are so many, but that one's useful, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so as we're winding down here with the last few minutes we have on this session, I'm going to move from the live Q&A. If you keep having questions, keep asking them, and then of course, you can always reach out to us through our website for more information, or we have a wonderful technical support team that's always happy to answer questions. But before we leave today, I do want to mention, for those of you who haven't upgraded to Global Mapper version 26.1, some pathways to do that. So it depends on your license type, what you may need to do in order to get on the latest version of Global Mapper. So if you get a single machine, a single node locked license, or a floating single license where you registered Global Mapper by entering an order number right in the program when you downloaded whatever version you're using, and you are on current maintenance and support, or you've purchased your license new within the last 12 months, you should be able to download Global Mapper 26.1 and upgrade licensing by entering your order number, just as you did before. If you get a USB dongle key, so a physical license key that you plug into your machine to license Global Mapper, or you're working with a hosted network license, meaning you're connected to a network license server that's hosted by your organization, to license Global Mapper. There are just a few more steps in order to upgrade and get 26.1 licensed. So we've got an email on screen, authorize@bluemarblegeo.com, is a line to our licensing team, and they can help walk you through the process of doing that upgrade and make sure you've got the license to support version 26.1. As I mentioned, if you are on current maintenance and support with any of the license types, you are entitled to that upgrade to the latest version. When you purchase a new license, you've got maintenance and support for the first 12 months of that license. So you should be able to upgrade if that is applicable to you. But if you're unsure of your maintenance and support status, or you need to renew, you can always reach out to our licensing team as well, with the email on screen, and they'll be happy to help you and get you using the latest version so you can explore all these new features for yourself. And then lastly, we get some great questions about Global Mapper during this session, some about the features that Amanda and I showed today, and some about other functionality in Global Mapper. So if you are interested in doing some training on Global Mapper, at the top of the webinar, I mentioned some of our instructor-led training, and those training dates. You can find those on our website, but we also have some self-paced training through the Blue Marble Geographics online classroom. We've got some free courses that are sort of intro level to get you started using Global Mapper and our other programs. And then we've got some premium paid, more intense courses focused a little more discreetly on specific aspects of the program. We have some on scripting, both Global Mapper script and Python. And then our latest course is on the Pixels to Points tool, a really great tool in Global Mapper Pro for taking drone or UAV collected images and creating some 3D outputs, including a point cloud, allowing great visualization. It's awesome data creation and leads you to a whole host of analysis options that you can go from there with your generated point cloud. So some great courses on the online classroom if you are interested in some self-paced training, or again, we do have the instructor-led training. You can find more information about both of these by scanning the QR codes that you're seeing on screen or by visiting our website. And I think that is it. Do you have anything else to add for today, Amanda?
No, I think we've just about covered it. Thank you for having me.
Of course, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for participating in this webinar and doing this with me. If you're interested in what's new in Global Mapper Pro, please tune in next week at the same time. So Wednesday, March 12th at 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time. We will be going over what's new in Global Mapper Pro 26.1. So some more exciting new features on the pro level of the program. So don't forget to register for that webinar. And thank you so much for attending today. Have a great afternoon.